Hello and welcome to Education Talk. Now, this is one of your best programs on education on television. You're very welcome, and I'm Wilma. Today we'll be talking about coding, why coding is important for our children in schools and the UK economy. And to discuss these issues with me today is Dr. Chrissy Mafidon. He's a consultant to presidents and governments when it comes to educational issues. Dr. Chrissy, you're very welcome to our studios today.
Thank you for your kind invitation.
Quite a lot to talk about, but let's start with coding. Now, it is good news for the UK because 3 young coding enthusiasts from the country have beaten off European competition to win a gaming contest organized by Microsoft. The Kodu Cup challenges children to create their own game using Kodu, Microsoft's visual programming language. The winning game was a futuristic one in which players compete to defeat an evil robot. The competition is part of a huge push to get children doing more coding.
The Kodu initiative believes that everyone can create, everyone can code. Kodu Cup challenges European pupils and teachers to learn how to code in fun and exciting ways. What will your digital story be? Don't know much about computers? Afraid that the bits will bite back? Don't worry. Learning or even teaching, Kodu is easy. Don't know where to start with IT in your class? Join the growing Kodu community. Discuss your ideas, share support, learn, teach, and have fun. Your quest for knowledge can begin with Kodu. Every child from 6 to 16 has the chance to be a part of it. Don't hesitate. Join Kodu Cup Europe today.
And there is it on the Kodu Cup. Now, Dr. Chris, what are the benefits of learning how to code for our children?
It's a multi-benefit stream. One, coding in itself looks at problem solving. 2, it teaches logic. 3, you are able to, because here we're talking about visual programming. So you understand without necessarily being a mathematician, you understand because you can see the visual display of your code literally in action. So it transcends coding, it even moves into programming because you are now saying you want to program a solution to an existing problem. And if our students are hooked on programming, it's a lot better than just playing the games because now you're doing something productive instead of consuming. So you can see that, and the last thing that anyone must not forget is that, of course, if you're very good at programming, it will impact on your mathematical logic, it will impact on your numerical analysis. You'll be able to do a lot of things that other people struggle with because they don't understand the, if you like, the background to what is happening. So you are able to predict what's going to happen because you've literally programmed, you're giving the set of instructions to machines to carry out a particular task for you within defined parameters.
The interesting thing is that right now, looking at the wider economy, according to statistics, the UK needs about 70,000 programmers annually, but currently we're producing less than 7,000 graduates.
Which is very sad. But the programming department, the computer science department need to realize that they are no longer just computer science department. They are now also into almost every consumer electronic we buy today has a piece of software in it. If you buy a DVD player, there's a software in it. If you buy a car, there are codes in it. So there is no longer that clear line between the computer science world and the real world because every single device or micro device that we have, mobile phones have updates every 6 months, 3 months. What is an update? An update is a new set of codes that have been made to correct some bugs in the pre-existing code. So you see that our lives today are far more influenced and if to be honest, dictated to, not just influenced, dictated to by one program or another. So we cannot shove it aside and just say it's only for computer scientists. Every single walk of life should show some interest in seeing how they can bring their problem to the fore and even devise a little software that can deal with 1 or 2 problems that they already have.
And not just for our children, adults can also learn how to code because a lot of people, I mean, it's important in learning how to write applications. We have the Google Play Store, the iOS App Store. We have a lot of apps there which a lot of adults can actually learn how to code and put on.
And you don't need to be really deep into computer science. You can be a doctor and still be able to program. Anyone that can give a set of instructions. I mean, the joke they make in STEM is that if you can make a sandwich, you can write a program. So anyone that can follow instructions can give instructions. And if you can give instructions, you can translate that instructions to things that the machines will be able to read and understand and execute or carry out. The big word is execute, to confuse the innocent. But it means it's able to carry out the set of instructions that you're giving it. So I think every single child should be allowed to make mistakes, correct the mistakes. Initially, it's not going to take up on a flying start, but once you have found out that programming is about correcting the mistakes you've made and refining it, then you are not afraid to program it, because that's the single biggest fear people have. So I don't want to make mistakes. What if I write a code and it doesn't work? You review it.
And no matter the career or the profession you're in, it's important to learn how to code. Because
you're influenced by it, because you're dictated by it. Every pilot, every aircraft has codes in them. Every traffic controlling system has codes in them. So really, there's hardly anywhere anybody can turn today without knowing directly or indirectly that there's a computer software assisting you to deliver your task or to perform your task.
Well, let's move on now to David Cameron. Why there are more rapid powers of intervention to improve failing schools in England are being proposed by the Prime Minister, David Cameron. He wants a national teaching service where a pool of top teachers can be deployed anywhere to help weaker schools. The Prime Minister says the plans would help 100,000 pupils in more than 500 schools currently graded by Ofsted as inadequate. Now, Dr. Grace, this is great to see that the Prime Minister is taking the first step in ensuring that weaker schools are supported. Now, a part of this plan is this. The regional chiefs will be given stronger powers to make immediate changes in struggling schools. And how are the head teachers going to see this? Is this going to all go well with them?
It's always very sad when students lose out, because we only have one stab at education. We only have one opportunity to be young. So if we don't have this foundation laid very strongly, then we'll find out that these children will grow up to be adults that will have no skills, no education, and no knowledge, and not be able to contribute to the society. So it's a laudable thing that the Prime Minister really wants to focus on it. I will be very keen to see how the detail works out, because a similar scheme was designed about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was the real reason behind the academy program. That means to pick up failing schools and turn them into academies so that they be totally independent of the local authority and be able to be flexible to the needs of the students and get them out of, if you like, failure. But right now, we are saying that we are coming up with another strata, another layer of intervention when we have not really pursued the original one of having them be academies, because academies are more likely going to succeed because they don't have much red tape. But if you now say you want the schools to still stay in local authority control, but you're only changing the head, then you may not be able to radically change the culture that led to that failure.
Because the red tape is still there.
It's still there. That's one of the contributing factors, because everything is centralized, everything's controlled centrally, and if everything is one man takes decision on behalf of a group of schools, that person, that man or that woman, may not be able to be aware of the real things that are responsible for failure, or real things that are responsible for underperformance. If we are able to take education out of politics altogether, that'll probably be a better time.
That'll probably be a better time. Now let's look ahead. Teachers, they actually want primary school pupils to learn more about the links between learning and the world of work. And more than 1,000 schools in England, Wales and Northern Ireland have signed up to a project putting them in touch with employers. Education Secretary Nikki Morgan says the project will inspire children to think about different opportunities. Looking at this project now, this will definitely teach our kids how to think outside the box and become innovators and entrepreneurs. But is that alone enough?
No, you have to look at the exposure the students are getting now. If we have real industrial exposure, that means you spend half a term or a term, or even during the term holidays, interterm, you expose the students to the reality to say, why do you need to write an essay in school? Because people write stories every day in newspapers. Why do I need to calculate? Because if you go to the bank, you see a lot of people have to add and subtract. So you see the reality of what you're doing in school, that will inspire and that will make people say, oh, I think that's useful because when I grow up, I want to be a banker. Because I want to be a banker, I would like to really sit down and look at why I'm having problems with maths. Or if I grow up, I want to be a journalist, I want to be a writer. Now I want to see why I cannot write essays the way my friends write essays. So if we are going to expose them to the cutting edge and the real application of what we are teaching them, that would be fantastic. And all for it, but I don't know what sector of the curriculum is going to be compressed or eliminated to make room for this, because the curriculum is already crowded enough as it is.
And one of the suggestions you gave is that this should go beyond the classroom and beyond the school term.
Yes.
You should extend into the summer holidays as well, so that the kids can actually go to these workplaces and see what's going on and relate it with academic work and real life.
Yeah, we can have short interns, or short internship. Some students already do that when they finish their educational journey. Others do it within their educational journey. Others are just completely excluded from it, and the first thing they hear about work is after graduation. That's terribly unfair on them. So if we are able to give them mini internships, no matter how trivial the work might seem, go to a GP surgery and make coffee and tea. You will see how the GP surgery works. You will be able to see the person that books the appointments. You'll be able to see the nurse. You'll be able to see the doctor. So you now know that there are supporting professions to medicine. And you may want to now revise your opinion about wanting to be a doctor, or wanting to be a nurse, or wanting to be a physiotherapist. So there are a lot of things that you gain if you are exposed to a situation. And I think whatever we do, if we expose the children to it, they will enjoy it, they will make an informed decision, they will not just follow what somebody has said inside the classroom, because they've now come out of the classroom and they've seen the reality in the bank, in the hospital, or even in the sports field. You are able to see that if you go for a major Premiership football match, if you know the number of professionals that are lined up to make that successful, you know that it's not just what happens within the field. There are sports writers, there are broadcasters, there are ambulance men and women, there's a first aider. So you see, it's a multidisciplinary activity, if just the football match alone.
And should you start right from the first year in primary school?
We should start as soon as the child starts indicating interest in one profession or the other, or showing preference for one profession or the other. So the child is already sending signals to us that when I grow up, I would like to be this. Then you say, okay, are you sure you want to be this? Yes. If that's what you want to be, let's see how it works in real life. Let's not just watch the TV program and say, oh, because I watched Casualty, I know what it means to be a doctor and I want to be. No, that's fantasy. Watching any TV program airbrushes a lot of things off. But if you get involved in it and you see the rough and tumble of the profession, you'll be better informed.
Better informed, that's the phrase. Now, as Parliament reopened this week, you were invited back to a select committee meeting on youth engagement in politics, and which is the theme of this year's Parliament Week. Now, it's important to train our youth, those who want to be involved in politics, very early, but how can our youth get engaged in politics?
It's a matter of the politicians and the government of the day involving their priorities. For instance, when it came to the Scottish referendum, you can see a large proportion of the youths were really, really energized. They went out and they campaigned. So they didn't only vote, they went and campaigned. Why? Because they were told clearly what benefit that will be to them, how it affects them, how when they grow up to be undergraduates, they will not have to pay any school fees. There are no tuition fees in Scotland. So if you know that you are now becoming a bigger nation, a great nation, a totally independent nation, you believe that there are more benefits that you will accrue from it. So if you address the needs of the student will respond. If you don't, then there will be a real disengagement from it. Another thing that the government can easily do is make e-voting a reality. Most of our youths are very electronically sound. They know what the language of technology. They use it every day. Now, if you now bring that democratic responsibility to their own turf, then they'll be involved in it. So there are a lot of things that the government can do and politicians can do that will enlist the interest of the students. Because if my interest is not addressed, then you are irrelevant to me. If my interest is addressed, then I want to be part of your organization or your movement or your politics. So I think that's what the government should take away from it.
So it's actually getting them involved in politics early enough, even while they are still students?
Yes, because they are passionate. Some youths are passionate about the environment. They want to make sure that the environment is still very, very able to sustain the planet when they grow up. So if you now come out and say that my policy is to make sure that I have a green policy, I support sustainability, I'm in for recycling, those are things that will touch very soft, they are very soft spots, and you will be surprised how many youths will be not just vote, you see, most people just want them to vote, no. They will be able to campaign because you have given them a theme, you've given them a particular passion to pursue. You said, oh, we are going to address this when it comes to the National Health Service and somebody is ill. So, okay, you mean that we're going to have free health delivery at the point of need. Therefore, I want to engage with you. Therefore, I want to campaign for whatever you stand for. So it's always an issue when people publish a manifesto, 2,000 pages, and you go through the whole thing, and not one single one is of relevance to you, or immediate relevance to you.
Immediate relevance. Now, how can the students win tickets to go to the House of Parliament for this year's Parliament Week? Because definitely going to that would actually help them understand the way politicians think, the way they work, and also train them to become better politicians in future tomorrow. Yeah,
it's an eye-opener. Any youth that has never ever had any visit to the House of Parliament, you should grab this as an opportunity, send in an essay, say why you think a 16-year-old should be allowed to vote. Just write a supporting, bring out your evidence and send it to us. If you email it to us, we have some limited tickets we'll be able to send to you, and you have the opportunity of visiting both the House of Lords and the Houses of Commons, and then you'll be able to walk through historic building, because it's an education itself. Just visiting the building teaches you history, exposes you to the reality of parliamentary democracy. It shows you that there's no one single person that makes the laws. You have a group of people that make the law. You see the law-making mechanism and process going from one stage to the other. So if you're a student, I don't care what profession you are intent on pursuing, because the youth in politics is going to be one of the core issues that is going to be reviewed this year, particularly from November the 14th to the 20th, you must write us. Write us. It doesn't matter how far you are from London, and it doesn't bother me whether you are very, very keen, whether you're a keen campaigner or you're just someone that's casually interested in what happens.
Let's talk about the Parents Educational Conference in Birmingham. Do we still have spaces left for that? We talked about that last week, and a lot of parents have actually shown interest in going for the conference.
If you're going to go, the time is running out, so you must send in your emails and you go to the website. You must register. If you don't pre-register, you're going to have problems getting it on the day, because it's always oversubscribed. Don't leave it to the last minute. Make sure that you book your place. If you don't book your place, I can guarantee you that you will not have space to get in. So there are still spaces available. Please try as much as possible to visit the website and just click. It's a matter of putting in your name, your address, your email address, and the postcode you live in, and then they will send you a confirmation to attend. And they can they get that on imafidons.com or excellenceineducation.org? Yeah, all the associated websites. Imafidons.com has it as a first item. excellenceineducation.org.uk has it as an item. It's once a year. It's a wonderful opportunity for parents to know more about the educational system, because it's a changing landscape. Every year there's something new about education, wanting to enhance it, wanting to make it better, and sometimes inadvertently even making it less attractive as it was before. So it's a useful thing for you to keep up to date with what's happening. I was just about to ask you what the parents are going to be learning in that conference and how it's going to help their children. You will know which academic year is most important when it comes to primary education, which one is the most important when it comes to secondary education, the admission process, how can you position your child so that your child's application is very competitive, because the top schools will always attract the highest number of applications. We have a school that's not far from here. They only have 180 places, but they get 2,000 applications every year. How do you get your son or your daughter positioned in such a way to be right in the fighting seat to be able to get a place? Because if you don't, you find out that the less able children will be able to get a place. Meanwhile, your son or your daughter that is brighter will lose out. So it's not a pure meritocracy. It depends on how well you play the game. And that's something that every parent needs to know.
So it's really knowing the rules of the game, but not how intelligent the child is.
Oh, yes. Knowledge of the system will always be superior to knowledge of a subject. If you're very good at maths, but you don't know how to apply to a math specialist school, you find out that you lose out. And someone that is weaker will go to a math specialist school and then end up being a top mathematician, when really you were supposed to be there. So don't believe that ignorance is bliss. It's not bliss. My people are destroyed because they have no knowledge of a particular thing. So if you live in ignorance, somebody else that is informed will exploit your ignorance and appear more successful than you are.
Definitely. Hosea chapter 4 verse 6, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Yes. Indeed. Let's talk about a seminar that is coming up called, it's a business seminar in London, how to be successful in business. And you will be speaking at that seminar. Now, why specifically speaking at that seminar about entrepreneurship and other things?
A lot of human endeavors have been completely overtaken by the rise in the use of technology. For example, 15 years ago, if I wanted to buy anything, I'll pick up the yellow pages, look for the different shops that have that item, and then phone them up and try and get it. Today, nobody wants to see the yellow pages. Everyone now goes to their favorite search engine, types in, and is able to get, in this postcode, what do we have? What is the local bookshop in the postcode? 15 years ago, you physically went to a physical bookshop, but today, a lot of 90% of the books sold now, including paperbacks, are sold on Amazon. So you can see Amazon has just become a dominant online bookshop. So as a business, you must understand what role technology is playing. You must be able to use technology for your competitive advantage. You must be able to find out what your competitors are doing that you are not doing. So those are some of the key things that anyone that is seriously involved in small or medium-sized business of any description in any sector ought to arm themselves with the current tools, because the tools of the previous years, 15 years ago, the thinking of previous years, the mindset that made you successful 20 years ago cannot make you successful today. And change is a watchword. You know everything is going to change. So you want to be ahead of the curve.
And it's targeted at startups, entrepreneurs, innovators, and students as well.
Yes. So if you're thinking of getting involved in any type of business, you must get the basics, the fundamentals right. If you get the fundamentals right, then success is guaranteed. If you make a fundamental error, then no matter how smart you are, success will elude you. No matter how hardworking you are, success will still elude you.
So if you're a student and you're thinking of becoming an entrepreneur and thinking, how am I going to start? You can go to imafidons.com and attend the business seminar. Thank you so much, Dr. Chris. We look forward to having you next week, and it was lovely having you on the program.
Thank you. It's a delight to be involved.
Viewers, this is Education Talk. Remember to send emails. You can log on to our website and send emails to educationtalk@loveltv.co.uk. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of our programs.